everybody, and welcome to the Music Minds podcast. My name is Tony Fennell, and joining me on our weekly journey into the business of music is my co-host, John Stone. How are you this fine evening, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good there, Tony. It's Monday night, and doing what we're due, so yes.
Well, I'm not going to say much about the Yankees. In fact, I won't say anything about the Yankees.
Well, who?
That's not.
I'm sorry, who?
Exactly.
When was that?
Oh, New York. Anyway, right, I'll stop. Right then, on to today's podcast. Today's episode, John, is called On Your Marks for the Bands in Town charts. All right. There was a time when getting on the charts was the be-all and end-all for bands and artists. And for me, actually, growing up in the UK, it was a religious experience. We always used to sit down and listen to the top 10 countdown on Radio 1 every Sunday. And at the same time, we'd have our cassette recorders in our hand, and we had our pause button ready to try and get the bloody DJ out of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but those were the good old days, John, right?
Right.
The good old bad old days.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was then and this is now. And nowadays, there are a ton of music charts. Some of them, obviously, they cater to a certain audience. And with that, a lot of these charts don't really mean anything to somebody who doesn't like that particular type of music. But these charts, though, can also be an interesting twist on how bands can be discovered, which I quite like. The whole chart thing just got very, very interesting indeed, though, John. The music platform BandsInTown has announced that they have launched a series of charts. And I have to say on first look, I think it sounds like a pretty darn good idea. The premise is this. BandsInTown will publish 24 worldwide US and city charts powered by data from the interactions of its 50 million registered fans. That's a lot of people,
That's
by the way.
pretty good.
Yeah, the company claims that these interactions, and this is where it's pretty amazing, they generate 500,000 clicks to ticketing sites each and every day.
Wow.
Mental. As it says on the BandsInTown website, BandsInTown has dedicated rankings for artists at every stage of their career, buzzing, emerging, and established. And we like that. What do you make of that, John? Is this a whole new world?
Well, this is very interesting, and when you pitched this to me, Tony, I had to take a look at it because as you said, we know the traditional charts, radio and such. We've been getting more now. There are actually charts coming out of Billboard now that talk about top music coming out of television and top music coming out of film.
Right?
Yeah. So they've advanced a little bit, out of the Stone Age, so to speak, to be a little more reflective of the current model and such, and obviously internet and all the other places. But here again, and as we've said the past couple of episodes, this is where the rubber meets the road, almost literally in this case, because it relates to touring. But who's coming out to see you? Who's really putting money down to show up at your shows, buy your merch, experience you live, and then, looking at this website and what they had to offer, they even are starting to build a little community here. People can put up reviews, so to speak. I was reading through them. Yeah. They were all pretty positive, so you kind of wonder if if you're getting the reverse Yelp there,
If it's mom and dad writing in, you know that, right?
Exactly, right. There's always 3 or 4, and the band has 3 or 4 people in it. But we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But this is, and look, that's a big sample size. 50 million. Now, how many did you say it was? 5 million?
I can't remember. It was years ago now. 50 million registered fans. Yeah.
So that's a big sample size. 50 million people, 500,000 a day. I mean, that's a good indicator of what your success level is. So reading through the chart that they had in there, and the trackers concept, so to speak, which are people that are following the artist, people who have been to a show, intend to see a show, have RSVP'd for an event that has the artist at it, something like that. And of course, they have their internal system for weighting certain criteria to get you a little clearer indication on their part of just how hot, buzzworthy you are, as they say. But it looks like it's a very interesting concept. And again, this is where it matters. I mean, if you're going to go on tour, you want to be, know that you're out there. If you're touring with another band, what are they going to bring to the table? Is their audience going to show up?
And you know what? We're going to go back to that promoter podcast that we did.
Yes.
Those guys are pretty powerful. They will look at this, and I quite like it. This chart system, this whole tracker growth, and fan engagement. You can start to see, as you say, there are reviews, and there are going to be mum and dad reviews, and there are going to be the manager saying to his mates, "You better write a good one."
Right.
But it's interesting, these charts, which I read today. I mean, I dug deep today. This isn't a solo effort by Bands in Town. They've partnered with Billboard. You mentioned Billboard, and they've partnered with them. I mean, they ain't messing around. The charts are going to be called the Billboard and Bands in Town Tour Index. I mean, Billboard get onto everything, and Billboard's old school, and I guess they're trying to, attach themselves to the mast here and go with the flow.
Right.
But I think it's a good twist. I think it's a nice way, and the way I kind of looked at it was, these are bands that normally would never get on the charts, so to speak.
Right.
And these are bands that, you could be playing in front of 100 people twice a week. You're on the charts.
Right.
It shows. And if you are getting 100 people a week coming to see you, well, it's a nice way for you to say to promoters, it's time for you to start looking at us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And these charts will help.
Absolutely. And what's funny about this is that Billboard used to put out a book, a yearly guide. I think it was the Billboard's Guide to Touring, and it gave you a lot of the information, who to go to, and we'll talk in a little bit about some online sites now that are doing that. But they used to put out literally a big book every year of all the clubs and all the promoters and all the promo people and all the people. If you wanted to go on tour, this is how you would plot out your make your plan, so to speak, to go out on the road. So to have this kind of a resource and to, okay, look, let's commit ourselves to going out and we're going to play 20 shows in the next, 3 months, okay, or 6 months, however you want to put it. And let's promote the heck out of those, because that can turn into, if you're playing at the right venues that are being scanned and viewed, or you're getting gigs through Bands in Town or selling tickets to your shows, that's a way to get on there. And then suddenly people are seeing you and starting to pay more attention to you. Now, mind you, by the way, I'm again showing my age and blatant ignorance in this world. I didn't know who any of these people were. So you're looking at it from the perspective of, wow, this is really cool. I wonder who that person is. But it's great because you click on them on this site and it takes you through. You can go to their social media pages. You can go to their website. You can go to their management. You can contact them through the site. You can get more information. It gives you a little bit of a background on who they are, what they are, a little blurb on them. So it's a real great resource and tool both ways. You as the artist and them as the consumer.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, these new monthly charts, and again, this is why I like it, because I think they're actually thinking outside the box. These monthly charts will include, and this is from their website, of course, emerging and established artists. But here's the twist. They're also going to have a weekly buzzing and emerging artist chart. And that'll cover 10 of the top music centers: Atlanta, Austin, Boston, Chicago, Dallas, Denver, Los Angeles, Nashville, New York, and San Francisco. So all the usual suspects.
Sure.
But what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, we're going to let you know bands that are starting to grow and bands that are starting to get a reputation. And I like that, John.
Yeah. And
I like that.
And it's interesting. Bands in Town, obviously I've known the brand for a while. They're very reliable, very good for this. I don't want to use the term down market, even though I just did, obviously. But the smaller venue clubs, the ones that are, capacity of maybe 100, 200, 300 at most, it's all standing room. You're not no seating, nothing like that. But it's that, and believe me, here in New York, I know you up in Boston, Tony, we have plenty of clubs like that, and they're a reasonable place. You can go there for maybe a $10 ticket, 15, 20 at most, and get in. It has a bar. It's a nice scene, and it's what clubs used to be in the old days, when you would go in there and see a couple of shows and, maybe do something through your local newspaper or saying, oh, who's in town this weekend or whatnot. Again, showing my age.
That feels like a billion years ago, John. I gotta say.
It really is a billion years ago. I feel like it's a billion years ago for sure.
Well, it was the Village. It was for you and I. I mean, you've been in New York a lot longer. Village Voice, that was it. You'd
Absolutely.
go and you'd open it up and go, who's on? You know, the internet was a baby somewhere else in the hemisphere, and that was our way.
Let me tell you something. I still have the ads from the shows that I played in the city at all the different Bitter End and at Kenny's Castaways and all the other street level and everything. Every time it was in there, we cut it out and we put it in our little scrapbook and went on our way. You know.
Well, it's also, John, you know, you mentioned these smaller venues with bars and stuff. This will also pertain, though, to those younger kids, you know, the skateboard kids who are like, and they have a lot of those dry places now where you can't drink because you're kids.
Right.
But the show will come on at 5 o'clock.
Right.
You know, and on the weekend, on a Saturday afternoon, it's almost like not a gymnasium, but it's as I say, it's a dry night. There's no one drinking.
Right.
We think.
Well, they drink
outside.
The music
business. Well,
they drink on their own.
Exactly. And we didn't give it to them. I promise you that. But you know what's interesting is, and it's going to help build those younger bands' reputations.
Yeah.
These are places that will be, I'm sure, added to this Bands in Town chart. It's really, really cool. I will say this though. I'm thinking, I've found a real cracker here, John. I have found the story of stories. Then you go, well, actually.
Well,
so can you tell me about this Indie on the Move thing? Because it sounds really bloody interesting.
Yeah. Now, so doing a little research on this story, I was looking around, and something you and I have talked about in a couple previous podcasts. You know, how do you get out there? How do you do a tour? How do you set up a tour? How do you do the kind of literally the legwork to a certain extent, or the road work necessary to get out there and perform and put your music in front of an audiences that aren't already in your hometown. So just a buttonhole on this, Bands in Town for Artists is the other piece of this platform where you as an artist can set yourself up and you can create your own page to communicate through Bands in Town, promote your tours, everything like that for free as an artist. So that's another piece of this puzzle. So IndieOnTheMove.com, one thing I was looking at was, is there somebody that is doing that work that Billboard used to do flat out, of telling you where the venues are, telling you what the contact information for the booker is, telling you what the genre of that club or the size of it or what you have to have in place, as they used to put out in literally a physical publication. And the one first thing that I found is this website called IndieOnTheMove.com, and it's pretty old. It's from 2008 when it was originally created, and it was created by the members of a rock band. I love this name, Zelazowa, I believe, Zelazowa, which is the name of a Polish city. But these guys are from Philly, so whatever.
Awesome.
But they're apparently still playing, and they created Indie on the Move because they wanted to create a platform that would give indie bands that want to go out on the road, the opportunity to find information about where they should go, who they should play with, and what performances are available, what tours are available, who they can open for, all of that kind of stuff. So I went in, you have to sign up for it, of course, and there is a monthly fee for it. For the deluxe package is $29.99. We're not doing a sales pitch here, folks. I have nothing there. And so basically you'll get somebody that can work with you, that can help you. They have templates for doing these email appeals, reaching out to, so you can, it's already got the template set up, and all you got to do is fill in your information basically, and that's the email that you'll send to the booker for these clubs, and they will actually do these these DIY tour programs with you. That costs a lot of money, but if you're really serious, you want to get out there, a 10 market tour, meaning 10 cities or 10 markets, would be $475, and that's $475. 20 market tour, $625. And what that means is somebody from the site will work with you to create. They'll look at your online presence. They'll look at your music. They'll look at your brand, so to speak, and say, okay, you want to do a 10-city tour. These are the clubs you should be reaching out to. Then they'll help you get through to those clubs and set you up and potentially help you create your tour. Now, I had been thinking about this yesterday when we were talking about this, Tony. of who would do that kind of thing. And here it seems to be a very good resource for that. I think there are other elements that you want in there, and I haven't seen that yet on here, which is like, do you want to rent a van to do this? You know, do you want to try and go and, you know, stay at the cheap motels? There's actually another site that I did not delve into yet, but it looked like it was a place where bands could connect. It's almost like Airbnb for bands, but it's couch surfing for bands, and it's basically people that will put up traveling acts in their homes and
what a great idea.
Let them stay there as they're going through tour to make it a little more, you know, a little less expensive. So this part of the industry, which is so tangible, you know, everything we talk about with digital and, you know, bots and, you know, people just clicking and building up their, you know, supposed online reputation, you know, through whatever means necessary. This is actually the part of the industry where, number one, you can make money. You can actually have transactions where you're performing and getting paid. You're selling merch. You're selling your music directly. All that sort of thing. And there's direct expenses you have to deal with. And have something like this in place to help is really, really great. And it looks like they've been here for a while. And I'll just now say, that's good. There are others that didn't work out. And
oh boy.
Back in the heyday, which I would say about 10 years ago, there were a lot when things really started, you know, breaking open, so to speak, in the industry, and everything was sort of topsy-turvy because of, you know, piracy in the web and everything like that. There were some companies that came out that purported to be this type of advocate and you know, independent resource for independent artists to get their music out there and to get it to, in particular, music supervisors, also to clubs and to touring venues and that sort of thing. Yeah. And there are a couple of them that didn't work out. And this is, I think, what we could call a, you know, not a warning, but, you know, buyer beware and that sort of thing. Again, I don't want to say anything negative about IndieOnTheMove because they do seem to be very legit. They had some really good testimonials and that sort of thing, all good. And they're still doing it. So that really should show that if people, you know, caught on to this being a scam or something, they wouldn't still be doing it. So I have to give them their props for that. But there are some other companies that didn't work out, and I'm not going to get into names because both of them actually still exist, although they're not quite. But, you know, anyone who knows this part of the business will know who I'm talking about. So there was one company, and we actually did a little bit of business. Eric Masson, my business partner with Music Supervision, we did a little bit of work with them one time. And this company purported to be your contact. You could upload your music to their platform. They were basically an open source library, and you could get your music to music supervisors. You could get it to touring companies and to clubs and to music festivals and all that sort of thing. And they would give your music to them, and then you'll get booked or you'll get your music used on a film or a TV show or something like that. And they wound up not really being that legit. And I'll tell you, from behind the scenes, we did one little project with them when we were working with an independent film looking for music. And what they did, and this was a common complaint with them, is that sure, you can pitch your music. They would give you a list of opportunities that you would say, oh, I want to send my music to this person, or I want to send it for this project or this tour or whatever. And you had to pay to send your music to that source. To that post. Now, okay, yeah, you got to spend to make, you know, that.
But hang on, haven't you just paid them for them to ask permission?
You didn't pay anything up front. You did not pay up. So sorry, let me clarify that. So for this particular company from way back when, you did not have to pay up front, but you did give them your music, and they would then, you know, give you the opportunity to get your music to supervisors. Well, you could send your music to the supervisor, or in our case, it was to supervisors. So you could send your music to whoever you wanted to send it to, but you had to pay for that. And then it turns out that they actually would send money to that particular person that you were sending your music to, and if they accepted it, if they accepted your music or whatever, that was fine. But you didn't have to listen to it. You never had to respond. You never had to do anything. I mean, that's darn near a scam. Okay.
It is a scam, and you nailed it, mate. It's buyer beware always with this stuff. I mean, the music business is full of shysters. There's been a million managers that aren't really managers. They've got a couple of dodgy cars on a lot. And you know, and they happen to walk into a gig, and you've got a couple of young kids, and they're going, "We got a manager." I was one of those kids.
Oh yeah, no, there's a dime a dozen out there. Here's one thing, and I think it's the good side of Indie on the Move charging is that they have to be a little more legit. When you talk about doing that sort of thing, because if you're paying for that service, that is a transaction that, you know, you can say, well, wait a minute, I gave you money, what happened here? Now, in this case, with the first company, that you basically had to pay each time you submitted, and then whatever happened. With this other one, you didn't have to, but if they submitted your song for a film or a TV show, let's just say a TV show, and it got used, what they would do is they would tag that song. Now, we know tagging from the internet now, but in those days, tagging meant when you've registered your song with a performing rights society like ASCAP or BMI or CSAC here in the United States and others overseas, you say, this is, you know, John's song by John Stone, and bam, it's up there. If they submitted something, they would submit it with a tag on it. So it became John Stone XYZ. Wow. Or John Song XYZ.
And they've attached themselves to the
They've attached it, so it's basically ripping off your publishing without ever having signed a deal with you, giving you any money. They take their little cut, all of that. They would take up to 50% of whatever fees they got from you. And at the end of the day, and remember this, everybody, at the end of the day, your Performing Rights Society registration, which I always encourage everybody to do very early on, that's free, and these societies are there to protect you. That song, when you look that song, you say, oh man, John's song by John Stone, I love that song. I want to hear that. You know, where am I going to find out how to get more information about that? I want to use it in my film or something. You're going to go to one of these PROs. If you look it up and you see that it's, John's song XYZ, that must be what it is. Bam. All of a sudden, that you use that title in your cue sheet that you submit, they're going to get money from that even if they never submitted it in the first place.
Wow.
Do you see what I'm saying? So,
I do.
Because, you know, these companies, God bless these PROs, they're huge, and they can't keep track of every little variation of every little thing. And the next thing you know, your song, you have to go in and you say, no, that's not my song. That's something else. You can't, you have to do, and you have to be even more, burdened with keeping track of this stuff. So I'm sorry I went off a little bit off the rails here. The point of this is when you're working with somebody, if you're working with somebody that is going to provide you with a service that otherwise would take you a lot of time and effort to do yourself, make sure that you have everything locked down properly. And again, something like Indie on the Move, it looks like they're a lot more legit because you are doing a fee for service with them. They are supposed to provide you with real assistance that you pay them for. So that sounds a lot more legit than, just send me your music and I'll get you on TV.
I'm looking at what they actually offer: members directory, touring tips, strategic partners, venues, and quick pitch. There's a lot of stuff. If half of this is halfway decent, you're on your way. And $500 as opposed to 20% for your manager for the rest of his life. And if he's garbage and you're stuck, it's $500. If this company, Indie on the Move, and I'm sure they are a fantastic company, by the way. And again, we're not telling you not to try anything. We're saying give these guys a look. It's absolutely any way you can get from A to B. We want musicians of any ilk, musicians of any style, to get a leg up here. And perhaps Indie on the Move or the new Bands in Town charts is the way to go.
Well, and anything that you're doing with somebody, also remember you want to make it non-exclusive. And if you're signing any kind of a term deal with them, you make sure there's a term on it. So, even if it's something, I think with Indie on the Move, you can do it on a yearly basis and you're subscribing to them basically. But you make sure that they're not the only ones that can exclusively book you for touring or something, always make sure that if there's anything there, you'll read the fine print. Anything you do with this stuff, I know it's like when you get your cell phone bill or you sign up for a new plan or something like that. It's like, oh, do you agree to this? Everyone just clicks yes. In these cases, you want to make sure you read everything because you want to make sure it's non-exclusive. Because hey, God willing, you're going to go out on tour. You're going to blow up. You're going to be the biggest thing since sliced bread, and big companies, touring companies and management and that sort of thing are going to want to come along and work with you. You don't want to suddenly be tied to some company that was just there in the beginning and suddenly they've latched onto you and you can't get out of them. So
spoken like a true music executive right there. I can't help it.
No perpetuity and no exclusivity. Those things cost a lot of money.
That is awesome. You know what, mate? I mean, I'm being serious when I say this. The stuff is moving so rapidly in the music business. It's hard to keep up with it.
Right.
But I will say this: if people stay with us as they have, and we've got a nice, steady, growing following now for this podcast.
Good.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. If they stay with us, we're going to keep on top of this. I will like to say this, John. Again, wealth of knowledge, my friend. I'm always amazed. I'm usually half cut through a load of drink, and I'm going, "What did he just say?" But you actually make a lot of sense, mate.
I do. Sometimes I do.
Anyway, I'd like to say thank you to everybody for listening today, and remember, don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast on YouTube, and you can catch all of our episodes on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, InTune Radio, Stitcher, and for those of you who'd like to get a little bit more info, check out our website, www.musicmindspodcast.com. Until next time, people, thanks again for listening. Love you, John.
Right on. You too, Tony. Good night, everybody.